Hey, how you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy with Crannk, and today I'm having a chat to two-thirds of SteelSwarm, Sydney prog metal trio who recently released their debut album, Aspects of Dissonance, August 6th. I'm chatting with Zac on drums and Jamie of bass. How you going, guys?
Hey, going pretty good.
Cool. So the band SteelSwarm, I'm guessing it started with you, Jamie, and your brother kind of jamming around the house. Can you tell me a little bit about how you guys both started getting into bass for you?
Well, so Dane was the first one to be interested in music.
Yep.
So, Dane was very heavily influenced by Metallica. So Dane got his guitar first, and he would always play, and I would say, I want a guitar as well. So I would always play his guitar with my fingers. So he said, "Why don't you get a bass?" So then I did get a bass, and we just started, just messing around in actually our room. We started making these pretty crappy songs, but that was so influenced by Metallica. So that's why we had that really thrashy EP.
The Ultimate Offering?
Yeah, so it's just totally different. But yeah, it just came out of really Dane, I think, started the chain of events there.
Yep. I went looking for that thrash EP, dude, because you mentioned thrash, and I'm a mad thrash fan. I just had a chat to Craig the other week, and I was chatting to Christian Speasy Giesler from Creator. You're talking about finger picking with the bass and that. He actually does that on the albums and stuff like that as well, dude, and plays with it on the shows. So, yeah, that's unreal, man. And Zac, can I ask you how you got into drums, man?
That's a history lesson in itself. So growing up in my younger days, I was influenced a lot by my dad, to be fair, because he was more into like hard rock. He got me into like your Deep Purple, your Black Sabbath, those early 70s and 80s hard rock bands. So he'd have them constantly going, and I'd be listening to them. Oh, that sounds really cool. So and over the years, it's sort of like he's a guitarist himself, but he's like more of a rhythm player and all that sort of stuff. He was into a lot of like covers bands and all that. And I'd more often than not go along with him to either gigs or rehearsals or something like that. And whenever there was a free time, I'd jump behind the drum kit of the drummer with their permission, just muck around with a beat, nothing too serious. And then about closer to later high school, maybe year 10, I was like, turn to my dad and I go, I want to learn to play the drums. So he basically bought me a simplified drum kit. I've been drumming for about 12 years, and a lot of my heavy influences obviously started with Deep Purple, with Ian Paice and all of his craziness. And it just sort of changed over the years, and it's been more progressively influenced. Like one of my biggest, huge influences in drumming at the moment is always Dream Theater, both Mike Portnoy and Mike Mangini. So that's why if you've ever seen pictures of my drum kit, it looks like it does, because I'm like trying to go for their sort of look and their sound sort of thing, but trying to make it my own. So yeah, a lot of that's come from there, but I was in a few thrash bands before, so I'd take influence from bands like Lamb of God and Trivium and As I Lay Dying and stuff like that for that sort of heavy hitting sound and all that sort of stuff. And particularly with the brand of cymbals that I've used is not trying to plug them, and I'm definitely not endorsed by them. I wish I was. That'd be nice. But I use Meinl cymbals on all my kit, which sort of springboarded from Chris Adler, who exclusively uses Meinl. I was like, his sound was awesome, and I was like, I want to capture that, and I've got just purely Meinl cymbals on my kit.
That's cool. Well, while we're talking about it, what bass are you using at the moment, Jamie?
It is a Spectre Euro series.
Yep.
The 5-string. It's a poplar wood. So yeah, it's really nice. I actually got that one secondhand.
Yeah.
But yeah, it works just fine.
Yeah, that's a really good score. So this album, Aspects of Dissonance, you're saying that, that first EP is heavily inspired by your thrash sides. This is an unreal album. It's quite a departure from, as you were saying, your thrash roots. Can you tell me a little bit about what inspired this, you know, first start down, you know, this prog metal side of things?
Well, it actually, with one of our older drummers, he played us Born of Osiris. I think, I can't remember what album it was. It may have been the Discovery, I think. And as soon as we heard it, me and Dane really liked it, because we were in the car, we're going somewhere, I think to a gig or something. And yeah, we just thought it was awesome. And we just really liked the sound of the progressive style, because it's, you know, it can be so complicated, and it's just a lot different and really interesting to listen to. So we just wanted to kind of go down that route, because we'd always done the thrash thing, but and our skills were also improving. So we thought we wanted to kind of, you know, make music that would kind of match some level of that.
Sort of go beyond what you're sort of used to. Like, you're like, okay, I can play this, but I have the ability to play this other style, so why don't we give that a crack? And here we are. Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, it's unreal. So how did you get on board, Zac? When did you and Dane and Jamie all meet up, and when did you officially get on board, and how did that happen?
I love the story. So
I like stories.
Goes back about 4 years. 4 years ago, maybe more or less. So I was just maybe 6 months out of a covers band I was in at the time. So I was in them for about 3 years after I'd left the thrash band prior to that. And I sort of wanted to take a break a little bit from, I guess, just playing. I don't want to say I was burnt out, but I was going through, you know, some emotions at the time. So I was like, okay, I want to take a break, step back from that, and just focus on work or whatever else was going on. And a friend of mine that I play online video games with at the time, he was like, oh, I know this really cool band, because I'd, you know, gotten into him and I knew him from a few gigs around Sydney. And he's like, this band is looking for a drummer and they're having a bloody hard time looking for it. And, you know, they're trying to aim for this progressive style. And I know that you match that bill because you play a lot of this, and this. It's like, why don't you give them a crack? I was like, yeah, sure, all right. You know, I was like, I might just get into it, you know, play something, because I look at this band and music in general at the moment is like, I want to play something for enjoyment. I want to get into it because I like it and it's fun. I enjoy it. So I was like, I'll give him a crack, you know, progressive metal, something I haven't played in a band with. So let's give it a go. So I messaged him on Facebook, and they got back to me. They're like, yeah, let's have an audition at this point. And we got together, and just pretty much that was that. Yeah. I think they gave me their EP at the time, which is more thrash oriented. So I learned, I think you were like, oh, just learn this one song or something, but I ended up learning like the majority of the EP. I'm like, oh, we weren't expecting that.
That's pretty cool. And then I suppose coming across, you know, with Dane and Jamie, you know, being very creative musically and having this vision, and then you coming from this covers band as well, it would have been really good to have this burst of energy going, wow, now I can actually create and put into something original and come in with a creative original band. Nothing against cover bands, but when you come in with a vision, and as an artist, as you were saying, you know, as an artist, you come in with a vision and you actually want to create as well, not just play other people's music. It would have been a pretty cool thing to match up and meet up with these guys, eh?
Oh yeah, it was really good. And, you know, have that sort of, that avenue sort of open up, and that sort of more creative freedom, as it were, you know, like, I'd throw my own originality, so to speak, into the cover songs, but with, you know, the original songs that we write, there's just freedom. There's no right or wrong thing.
It wouldn't sound the same if Zac wasn't drumming.
Yeah. It's got an unreal sound. And the one thing I love of prog metal, it could take you on this journey, and this album, the Aspects of Dissonance, it has that interlude in the middle with Life Obsolete, and your bass playing, dude, I love prog metal, because some can just have this really funky bass playing, and you're not tied into just one kind of style. With prog, you can kind of go across like pop elements, and you can hit the different kind of metal elements, tech, death, all that kind of stuff. And you've got your cleans and your heavies, and that bass, man, is so funky, dude. That's really cool, eh?
Yeah, that's exactly why we like it so much. It's a lot of freedom, and it's just really fun to play, with all those different aspects.
With me sort of learning, like I put a lot of the influence in a lot of our songs, particularly with Dream Theater, how a lot of their songs go on this huge progressive journey. Like I was listening to, on the way here, I was actually listening to their Systematic Chaos album, and that's actually one of my favorites because of you listen to the first half of the album, and it almost, as much as the songs flow into each other, they're so different and unique from each other. There's just, like you said, it takes you on that journey, and I love that.
Yeah, and I love to like with this, and I like albums that do it. You hit that interlude section that has that little instrumental or something, and you can tell you're really into an album when you just sit there and you're kind of listening to the music and reflecting on things as well. I do that a lot with a lot of really good prog metal albums because I get an album like this one. I got this album, I listened to it from start to finish, went back, start to finish, and I listened to it a few times because each time you listen to it, you get these subtle little nuances, and you're not going to get with that first listening, and you're definitely not going to get with listening to one song on Spotify.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate that, your insight, because we spent so long on these songs.
Yeah, well, Everything Lasts Forever come out in 2018. Can you tell me a little bit about that track? Because that was one of the first tracks you kind of come out with, wasn't it, off the album?
Yeah, so we didn't really have the other songs ready at that point, but we still wanted to release something to show the sound, our new sound. So we thought that'd be, because we have always had that was like one of the first progressive-y songs we had. And that's why we chose that one first. And it's got kind of it's got more of a, what would you say?
It has more of that. You'd hear it played on the radio. Sort of sound?
Yeah.
It's kind of like our Pull Me Under, basically.
Yeah. Even though it is complicated, but it's not as complicated as the other ones. But yeah.
Yeah. So Dane, he's doing the heavy and the clean vocals, is he?
Yes. Dane does all the vocal stuff.
He's got an unreal voice, your brother. He's unreal voice, and it
doesn't relieve some of the pressure from him on stage by doing a lot of the screams or cleans vocals for him in our live shows. But all the recordings are all him. Yeah. So he's quite, like, he always, I think there was a point where we were looking for a full-time singer, but we sort of hit a wall with that one. So we just decided to stick it with ourselves instead. So, and I give it to Dane. He's like, he's always saying, he reckons he's not that great, but I always say you're always your own worst critic, because his vocals are phenomenal, to be honest.
Yeah, he's always had a struggle with, I think, if he can do it or not. And it's always been this internal battle, but he's practiced very hard, you know. He's really put the hours in.
Yeah, well, he can definitely do it. That's for sure. It comes across really well, and I think every person's the same. They hate the sound of their own voice. It doesn't matter who they are. I can't stand the sound of my own voice. I listen back to my things I do, and I'm like, oh, dude, the bands are cool. That shy guy, shut him up, dude.
Yeah, that's so many people.
So can I talk about the next track that come off? That was Twilight Harbour.
Yes.
Yeah, so this one is taking more of that, because Twilight Harbour is more complicated. So you can kind of see the evolution as we're getting these songs ready. So Everything Lasts Forever, and then we finished Twilight Harbour, and it was getting more complicated. We did some more of the screaming. We developed more of that. Not really sure what to say.
Yeah. When did you actually get in and start pre-production, like officially, get in there and, start kind of, a bit of pre-production before you got into and started the recording and production process?
Well, we always do. Me and Dane always do some crappy demo first.
So they'll write a song and then I'll throw a demo together with your fantastic Pro Tools drums and all the backing tracks, and then recording the guitar and the bass with some rough vocals if there's any written at the time.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you know, here's the song, and then I'll sort of listen back to it and come up with my own beat. But they're sort of like they're like our guidelines sort of thing for when we write the songs. And then obviously when we went into the studio, we sort of touched up on what we had to match what we've changed and implemented over the course of when we started. And then that was pretty much after that was pretty much go from there, really.
Yeah, we like to do everything that's totally clear, and then we go in there. So
So what was it like? What was the recording and production process like once you got in, and where did you record, and who produced it for you? Tell us all about that process.
So that would be so with the first two songs that we did, we hit up Ty, who was. Did he run his own studio at the time, or was he just his own sort of thing?
No, he taught at, I don't know, was it AAC or something?
Yeah, there's a university in the city just very close to the Central Station bus depot and whatever one that is. And at the time, he was independent, but he was really good at what he did. Yeah, which we were really impressed with at the time with those two. Obviously, with Everything Lasts Forever, and then he had improvements which he used in Twilight Harbor, and then again with remixing those two tracks as well as recording this album.
We liked his production style.
Yes.
We wanted that kind of, that djenty kind of sound, the progressive sound. So that's why we went with him.
But it was really, he's very hands-on, hands-off. So he's hands-on with giving us ideas and sort of saying, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? But he's hands-off in the terms of he'll give us the ideas, but he won't try to force them down our throat, so to speak, like you hear some producers will do with bands. They'll be like, you should do this. And then when the band sort of doesn't want to do that, there's a lot of tension. But no, Ty's really good. He's really he's friendly. He's got some really good ideas when he does have ideas as well.
It's very easy to work with.
Oh, so easy to work with. Yeah, he's a great bloke. And obviously with recording and production, it was, I think, the hardest thing to work on at the start, which is pretty funny, was probably the click track, especially with the more tempo changed or the more complicated songs where we had to sort of rewrite and change the tempos and click tracks on a lot of those just to make sure we got it down pat. Yeah. But after that, everything pretty much fell into place. After that, it was pretty smooth.
We do drums first.
Yep.
And then we did bass. And then we did guitar. And then Dane did vocals last. And then we actually added in some of Zac's keyboards.
That's right, because they, I think it was at the start or midway through, I was like, hey, it would be really cool if we added some synth sounds and stuff to the start or underlay some of these sounds in here, because Dane would add in the scratch tracks a lot of synth or underlays or stuff like that. And I was like, why don't we implement some of those, but with a different, I'll muck around with my keyboard at home. I've got a little Yamaha thing with 700 odd sounds in it and just muck around with all that. And we basically came in, I think, on what we would call the final day of recording. We basically just did some guitar touch-ups or something like that.
Yeah, because a lot of the times the songs are so complicated. Dane had this massive list of the parts to write, and he would cross them off. And we missed some. So we touched them in on the last day. Yeah. And even I had my own list. Dane had so much to do that.
Yeah, we threw the keyboard underlays in on that day as well. We didn't really add, I don't want to go too overboard because there's adding the nice wall of sound a la Devin Townsend, and then there's just throwing too much sound at the people, and I don't want to do that. So it's just sort of something subtle, something simple, but adds more to the song that, adds something to it. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, the album come out really, really well, and the production was A grade, man. It was a really great sounding album. Can I ask her, what you're going to kind of go from here with, playing? I suppose there's no playing live or anything, but did you have anything else planned Oh, nothing. That's why I make this point exactly, because, you know, guys like yourself that bring out these great albums, you know, it makes it more important to get along and support, like buy, you know, merch and things like that, or buy the album digitally, not just hit the like and subscribe on Spotify, because albums like this deserve to be played and really immerse yourself in, because it's an amazing album. And I have this struggle all the time. We have bands like yourself that are A-grade bands, and this album can hold it down, man. This is a great album, dude. And, you know, we have these great Australian bands, and yet we don't have as much support. So people watching this, if you like SteelSwarm, get along and support them, because, you know, it's great to listen to them on Spotify, but, you know, actually get along and support the band. It goes a long way, especially for guys like you. You get that support, and then it makes it easy to get that next album up and going, which I'm sure you guys have been, you know, already thinking about doing that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Because actually, we paid for a lot of the album just through live shows. So
yeah,
what you're saying is,
Very true.
you paid for half of it, I think.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you play a live show, you have people who actually come along and go, hey, yeah, look, there's SteelSwarm on stage. People that are just coming out for a show, maybe seeing the support band or the other band or whatever, and just coming in and going, wow, they've come in and seen this show. Then they walk over to a merch stand and they buy an album or they buy a shirt. And, like, there's a whole industry behind it. So I've been bringing it up a little bit, especially with what has going on with the crazy times in the world. But people don't realize that this whole industry behind the scene, it's not just a band who gets up and plays. You know, you guys are selling your merch, you're able to interact with the fans, and you just don't have that interaction at the moment, which is hard.
It's definitely a lot harder. Like you said, the best we can do is try to get the support from people like yourself, and, you know, people to spread the word, and, you know, for us, sort of go on our Facebook page and more or less self-promote here and there as well, and just hope for the best until the live shows start, you know, bringing themselves back into gear once everything starts going to some form of normality, as it were.
Yeah. So all that being said, where's the best place that people can go and, you know, actually support you guys over, you know, like, you know, buy digital copies? Where's the best place for people to go spend their money if they want to support SteelSwarm?
I'd say probably iTunes.
iTunes.
The whole album. You know, the album's pretty cheap as well. It's and there's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah. Who done the cover art for it?
Me.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
No artist required. We got one right here.
That looks so. I had a lot of trouble with that.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I hope other people like it as well.
Yeah, I always like to ask about cover art, because that's a thing. He's going to look at, maybe if it goes all right, get a few copies digitally, maybe doing a press of CDs or, you know, records. They're making a comeback. You know, people, you know, there's a niche market of metalheads I'm noticing here in Australia that just love records.
Get those vinyls plastered up in the, you know, that wall at Utopia. Get one up there, you know.
Yeah. We'll do a limited run of 10.
10, yeah, and some cassette tapes.
One.
One. So
that cassette player in their car because they don't want to replace the radio.
Yeah, but it's because Cold Chisel's probably still stuck in the cassette player, mate.
Man.
So can I ask, go back to the album. I know this is like picking a favourite child for artists, and, you know, I dread to do it sometimes, but I'm going to ask you guys, do you have a favourite track off the album?
I do.
Yes, definitively.
Yeah, well, let me know why.
You go first?
Yes, I'll go first. My favourite, hands down, is Future Gods. Always has been. When they sent me the EP, I listened to that like so many times, just because the main riff, like the that thing, I was like listening to that like when I was learning it in my head over and over again to sort of work it out. I just had that as I was living with a mate at the time, so I'd be playing some video game. I think, what was I playing? Horizon Zero Dawn at the time.
Yes.
And at the time it was called something else.
That's right.
It was something about like the fall of humanity, or something to do with some sort of I sort of depicted it as having the title having some sort of apocalyptic meaning. So I was playing a video game set in an apocalypse, playing that on repeat. So when we play it, all I could think about was that game. But going back to it, I was like, this song is just my favorite, hands down. Just that riff in just before the chorus.
I think that's Dane's favorite as well.
Really?
Yes.
It's funny because it's one I've got written down here, Future Gods, because I was going to ask about that one.
That's funny because Begin Simulation is the most listened to one.
Really?
From the statistics.
Yep.
There you go.
That's the first track, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, see, people need to listen to the whole album. That's the thing. I think that's the problem. You hit it on the head. They listen to one track, go on, yeah, okay, next. Okay. Yeah. Jamie, can you let us know your favourite track, mate, and why?
My favourite one is A River of Sky.
That's a cool one as well.
That'll probably be number 2 for that one.
I just like it because the amount of places it goes. And I really like the synth stuff in the beginning. It's got a really big intro. It's got a really like hyper build up, and then it dips down. I also like the middle part, the clean part, where there's the bass tapping, and it's got a really intense outro as well. It's just got so many different elements. It just appeals to me. Just all the sounds of it.
I do have to say, though, as much as I love that song as well, that was probably the hardest for me to record because of all the intense double kicking, especially right at the end.
Yes.
I think we tried it. That was the last song we did on day 1, which was probably a horrible idea because my legs were done by that point,
right.
so I just couldn't do it. Yeah. So we came in the next day. And it's just like, let's just start from the beginning. And then we just pretty much smashed it out from there.
Yeah. That's right.
That's cool. They're both great tracks. It's a great album. I've really, really enjoyed diving into your album, guys. Yeah, there we go. If we come back. Cool. It's an amazing album, as I was saying. I've really, really enjoyed diving into it. As I was saying, I love the journey with prog metal albums, and I really enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to kind of where you guys go as well, because I enjoyed the heck out of this album, and I really, really can see you guys have a big future in this, so just keep chipping away at it. Before we sign away, last words and shout-outs for you guys. Wait up. There we go.
Last words and shout-outs.
Probably a big shout-out to friends all our shows over the years and showing that support, more or less. There's always a few familiar faces that have come along to all the shows here or there.
Yeah, we would also like to thank Ty as well for doing such a good job on the album. Danger Tone in Melbourne.
Down in Melbourne, yeah.
Just for everybody, like Zac said, everybody who's, us through the change, who likes the post, actually engages with it. I had one bass student. He's still a fan. I think his name is Azza. So give a shout out to him. He's always yeah. Do you have anything more?
No. Shout it out to the world, as it was.
Awesome, guys. This has been an absolute pleasure. Real joy to have a chat to you guys. Everyone, get out, check out SteelSwarm, grab the Aspects of Dissonance album. It's out now. Jump over to iTunes, like the guys were saying. Show them some support. Grab the album and immerse yourself into it, and everything else. Jump along to all the other stuff. Show your support on the socials and everything else. So, cheers, guys. Massive shout out. Stay safe, and we'll talk soon. And hopefully, see you all when gigs are going again,
Thank you. Hopefully
awesome,
so.
Yeah, really enjoyable.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.